I'm a realtor. I think my biggest ask right now is probably like friends. Yes, we all like see each other at these events, but we moved to St. Pete and he lives in Michigan a lot of the time. So I would love to just chat, hang out, don't even have to talk about real estate. So, or we can talk about real estate.
I was going to say, you lie.
Yeah, I guess anyone in the St. Pete area, hit me up.
So Jillian is looking for emotional support.
Yeah.
You just want to grab a beer. I see the bridge happening.
We got emotional support margaritas coming up.
Yeah, right after this.
Great stuff.
Already a step ahead. Nick, I'm a realtor in Michigan, but I do the snowbird thing, so I don't have a license here. Krista handles that, but I flip here, and I guess my greatest ask would be the next deal. We're actually looking at one at 309 Selma, that greenhouse over there. I got to chat with Mike about. Next project, we just closed on one flip today, sold, and this one will be on the market next week. We're ready for the next deal.
Nick and Krista had met with Keeley before they started construction design, and they said, hey, just through your lens, what are the kind of spatial decisions that you would make in the home, right? What would you knock down? What would you keep? How would you do the configuration? Naturally, Nick and Krista know what they're doing. They have their own ideas too, but they collaborated with Keeley on this one. So on our first walkthrough, we went through those potential decisions, things that we were going to do on this project to capture top dollar, right? Have the highest ARV possible, right? So we're going to walk through some of those design decisions.
We had a wholesaler that we work with a lot. He had actually sold us the one at 2070 Selma. When this one hit the radar, he basically came to us first and asked us, which price we'd want it at. So ideally we were shooting for 250 just because we bought the other one at 290 and it wasn't quite enough margin.
Yep.
But we ended up getting this one for 260 and it was in much better shape than the other one.
Sure. A little bit bigger too.
Yes, yeah. The other one we sold for 440, I'm not trying to skip ahead.
It's okay.
Was 1,060 square feet, and this one was just under 1,200. So
we got a bigger property, better deal. We've already set a comp in the neighborhood, right?
Yeah,
it's inarguable, same operator, similar design, right down the road, right? So it makes everything that much easier starting off, right? Because you have a baseline to work with, a project that you already sold, and you just have to execute according to that baseline.
Yeah, and this one is sandwiched in between 700,000. I think the one on the other side of this just sold for 728. So this was in a better area on Selma as well. So it was really just all wins.
So he said they bought the house through a wholesaler that they work with frequently. So there's something to be said by building a relationship with a wholesaler. You don't necessarily have to win that negotiation every time. Naturally, I think we negotiate for the sake of negotiating to get the best deal possible. But there's something that happens when you start buying multiple deals from the same person. You start to build trust. So even though they bought a home that was a little bit bigger than one they just bought for 30 or 40 grand more, the wholesaler said, hey, you closed like you said you're going to close. So I'll take this deal. And maybe they made 15 instead of 25, or whatever the case was. So I think that's something, a nugget for the group, right? Build a relationship with the wholesaler, see them as a partner, and you can potentially walk into more margin right at the onset of a deal.
Our budget was around, and again, we kind of saw the final numbers of the other one that we overspent on.
Yep.
So we tried to reduce the budget and be more strategic about where we put the money. This is the draw schedule, so this is not exactly where we allocated the money, but I guess I did want to throw this in here because this is what we used to get our cash back. A lot of the stuff, like the siding, we had budgeted $12,000 for because the previous flip was, we had burnt so much money on sanding and doing too good of a job, honestly. So we had put this one pretty high, but we ended up just power washing and painting, not even sanding and scraping on this one. So a lot of these we learned from the last one and actually were able to reduce a lot of the costs. I think we ended up spending like $3,000, $4,000 on the siding when the other one we spent pretty close to 12.
The key lesson is there, like when we're getting into our first deal or two, we're so nervous that we're not going to get the numbers right. And I think you want to be as buttoned up as possible. But the general idea is he just had one deal that he used as a baseline to get into this one and use those numbers. And then the final, if you look at the actuals on the actual deal sheet, he's at 92,000, where he budgeted 80,000 at the onset. So he's pretty close, and we'll tell you where we spent that extra $12,000 or so. But I think the general idea is like, yeah, that first one's going to be a little more painful. Of course, do your due diligence. Don't take on unnecessary risk. But just as you get through one or two, you're getting better and better, right? The sword is getting sharper and sharper on every single deal. So he's not too far over on this one, considering, right? Because he had another deal to use.
percentage-wise, this is definitely one of our best. It's under 10% overage.
Right.
So
It's expect 10 or 15% is what you would expect, right? For contingency.
it's right within our threshold. Some of these are strategic for getting cash back quickly.
Sure. Good.
So like the flooring, 9,000. The flooring was probably 5,000.
Okay.
A lot of these, we used, to do that 50, 60K draw pretty early on to get our down payment back. So then I'm essentially 100% funded by John. A lot of these landscaping, we probably have 1,500, 2,000 into because that included the rocks.
Okay.
But we even had that on there twice. We had the driveway, that was for all the rocks.
Yep.
Definitely we saved a lot on the siding. Demolition, we put at like 5,000 because obviously that's pretty much the first week. So that first week of paying the guy's labor basically covers that.
Yep.
Kitchen, we probably have a little low. Living room remodel opens. So we opened 3 of these walls, which it's hard to pinpoint because it's all basically just labor costs at that point.
Sure.
But a lot of this was actually more designed, like I said, for just keeping the funding coming.
What we call that is front loading the draw schedule. So what he said is what I did in the early parts. So I know I'm getting through my first phase, right? I'm getting through demo and all that, those bits of work that happen after demo, like plumbing rough in, and right. So he's thinking about the first, let's say, month or so of a 3-month project. He's saying, okay, all of those things that I know I'm going to finish within the next month, I'm going to inflate the number on the draw schedule. So if I know it's going to cost me $2,500, I'm going to go to the draw schedule and say that's a $4,500 line item. That way I get my money back when I request my draw. I get the $2,500 I needed to pay my guys. And then I got an extra $2,000 that I can put as a capital reserve. So he's saying, hey, I got the money that I put down back because I front-loaded my draw strategically.
Up front, Nick and I had a conversation, and I said, hey, listen, use your best judgment when you put the budget together. Some things are going to be high, some things are going to be low. You can work with Mike to reallocate some of that money as long as it makes sense. Also, we understand that there's going to be somewhat of a built-in buffer, but all this is within reason, right? Like the numbers that he's putting down on your budget are not crazy. It's not unheard of to spend $5,000 on landscape.
Sure, that's right.
That's not out of the realm. Now listen, if Nick's a savvy investor and he's able to get it done for less, well, hey, great. Good, that's why we're lending to him. That's why we're doing the terms we're doing.
Sure,
Right? So
sure.
It's not lying to a lender or anything like that. It's just you want to make sure that there's a clear understanding of how your lender operates before you go into it.
So you want to be realistic about those numbers, right? So for example, the lender knows, because they do thousands of these projects, that a roof for this size project is like 10 to 15 grand. So you can't go 25, 40 grand on the roof because that's just not realistic, right? You'll get snagged for that. But if you're within 25% or so, I think you're okay, right? But just be realistic. But I think this is a really smart strategy that most flippers do as they're scaling their business, as they get more sophisticated in their journey. They're front loading these draw schedules, right? If they're running tight on capital. Some, of course, buy in all cash, etc. Right? It just depends on the scenario. But if you're scaling, building the business, building the capital base, this is a really smart way to do it. Front load your draws, get some cash. Some folks, what they'll do, let's say this is an $80,000 budget here, but they know they're only going to spend 70 grand or 65 grand on the actual budget. That $15,000, they put it into the budget so they get it back for the interest carrying cost. Because remember, that mortgage payment's coming no matter what, every month in and month out. So you can potentially build a buffer into your budget, right? If you have the wiggle room, if the numbers work, where you're getting some money back for your interest carrying costs, so that you're keeping, your actual capital, your actual cash in your pocket.
You want to understand how all of the numbers with the hard money lender come together. It's you have to be strategic about how you do this.
I'd also add that your appraiser is going to look at this too. You want the appraisal to come in as high as you can get it. So even if you don't go forward with that budget, you want to present that budget to the appraisers so they know.
Yep.
And then the second thing, asking questions to the lender is really important. Like, we're doing a loan, and there was definitely some back and forth on like how things were funded and percentages versus, so you want to really understand that. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing, on the other side, we analyze before you close all of your budgets. We have some people in our portfolio that are doing new construction where after their first draw, they're 40% drawn to their budget. And we've caught on to that and now are treating them a certain way where we can't trust their budgets anymore.
Sure.
So now they're on the list.
A little more scrutinized.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So you don't want to be ridiculous. Right?
Sure.
If your budget's 80 grand and you're trying to get 30 on day one, you know, like your lender's gonna be like, you're over leveraged probably.
That's right.
And maybe they might not give you another loan because they feel like you're strapped for cash.
Sure,
So
sure.
there's a balance here within reason.
Yep.
But you have to think about it from the lender's perspective. If they did give him $40,000 day one after demo was done, and then he went belly up, now the bank's going to take back the property,
Yep.
right? So there has to be balance. It needs to be fair. So I just keep that in mind.
Well, Mark promised he had a window guy.
I do have a window guy. I got a guy for everything.
No, we had basically the exact windows as next door. We probably should have addressed them earlier, but honestly, it was the absolute last thing we did. So the trim on the outside was sprayed. Everything was sprayed green and white. And the windows guys come in and they open them up, and basically somebody had just sealed everything shut with spray foam insulation. All the counterweights, everything was just unusable. The pulley systems, if you know about these old windows, they were all sealed shut, done. And then they had severe termite damage. I mean, they were falling apart when they opened. And so then we settled, we were like, hey, just try to get one window to open per room. So, I don't know, Mike might be able to speak to this. It meets egress, like there has to be at least one functional window. So we went down to that, and then they told us like, hey, we can't even get one window per room. So at the very last moment, we had a $10,000, $11,000 expense and just decided to go all new windows throughout. But that also meant, you know, redoing the siding, redoing the trim, which it worked out because we were able to replicate the Craftsman style trim that was here, but it is much fresher looking, I promise you, than like some of the original trim that's above the door still.
Sure.
So we were able to actually make it look good, and once we get them all cleaned up, they're going to sparkle.
Ideally, if you're replacing windows, you want that done before interior or exterior work is done, because you're going to have drywall repair on the inside, and you're going to have siding repair on the outside, and you're also going to have trim that has to go in after.
Yeah, so we had double the rework. Yeah, you're right. The trim on the inside, the drywall. There were 7 windows in that back bedroom, and we condensed it to 3. So we basically had to re-drywall the entire room.
Yep.
And reside the entire exterior.
So that changing the windows out and then doing the repair work because of the window installation was a $12,000.
Pretty close. I think
snafu?
the windows alone were like $6,000, $6,500, and then I forget what they charged us, a couple $100 per window installation.
$250, sure.
Yeah, something pretty standard. And then of course all the trim work, the repaint, and then all the material costs were probably at least $2,000 for the trim, exterior, interior, and all the new siding, which if we go out in the back, you can definitely see where the brand new siding is.
The windows are money well spent, honestly,
Yeah.
on this one, right? So yeah, I think there's a few similar comps in the area that are sitting a little while, right? So I think the windows go a long way, right? So
Yeah.
over budget, but probably a selling feature. Yeah.
So when we first walked this property, that was obviously still the living room. Where this couch is, there was a fireplace there. That wall was sealed off, so there was no entry, there was no third bedroom. This primary bedroom was just like one long room that incorporated both of these bedrooms. And then all of this was pretty closed in, and we had a big closet back here with the washer and dryer inside the kitchen. Krista's a realtor as well. This is where the pressure comes in for her to resell the project. And so when we walked it, we're obviously talking about what are buyers looking for. And so one of the things we had voted on, which me and Krista lost, but we won in the end, was to actually demolish the fireplace. We sold you on that?
Yeah, it
terms
does
of
look good. I
furniture
can't
placement?
imagine how there was a fireplace there. It was so small. It's
Stager
such a
says
small.
No fireplace.
Thank you.
Yeah, she
There you go.
agreed.
Awesome.
We
That's
had
it.
a combo with Mike. He still wants a fireplace.
Yeah, I was on the keep it, make it look nice side.
But had we kept the fireplace, we wouldn't have any furniture placement, right?
Yeah,
so
that's
when
the
you
argument,
guys,
yeah.
so when you guys are, going in and you're walking these projects for the first time, make sure you're paying attention to what the buyers are going to pay attention to, right? Where are they going to put their couch? Where are they going to put their TV? Where are they going to put their bed? There needs to be places where their furniture is going to make sense because they're actually going to live in the house. And regardless of how pretty it is, if it's not functional, they don't want it. They're going to leave.
When we purchased it, it was a 2-bed, 2-bath. And obviously selling the one at the end of the street at a 3-bed, 2-bath. This one has a little more square footage. Making that back into a 3-bed, 2-bath, we could easily get that comp, which is a little bit higher, and push that price. I think was super important. And young people buying in the Tampa Heights neighborhood need an office. They're looking for a home office. So yes, even though that third bedroom is small, they're going to use it.
Small but conforming.
Yes, small but conforming. Yeah. So I think that was important. And like even again, taking the laundry out of the kitchen, which is weird. No one likes it.
Yep.
Putting it here, kind of strategizing. Basically, like really putting myself into the home. What would I do if I lived here?
Yeah,
So I
so
think
good.
that was important going in from like a realtor standpoint.
So what does the buyer need? How are they going to live in this house? And
Or the renter,
eliminating,
right?
or the
The
renter,
owner, right?
and eliminating any weird quirks. So when you guys see laundry in the kitchen, laundry outside where they would have to walk in the rain and the heat to go change their laundry, or laundry in the master bathroom is another big one that you see. If you guys can relocate those, relocate them, because buyers, they think that's weird, they hate it. Laundry is a big deal breaker a lot of times for people on these old properties. And so they mentioned conforming, so that's important. But one thing to think about, like from the realtor perspective on that is, in my experience, right, appraisers are human beings. So they have their own thoughts and opinions about what is what. And so anytime that you're wanting to guarantee that you're going to get something, make sure that you're checking all of those boxes, because then you don't have to go back and argue, right? So let's say that you get a different appraiser who strictly is going to go by Florida building code and there's no closet in there. They may not count that as a bedroom for you. And now you've hurt yourself on the ARV, right? So I think they were really smart about kind of the way they laid it out with the closets back to back to make sure they maximized the square footage of those two rooms. But again, kind of checking all of the boxes to guarantee that this is technically a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, even if that bedroom is pretty small. Another big change in here was opening up all of these walls. So I feel like it feels, for those of you that walked it, it feels a lot bigger in here, right?
Maybe what, a foot in here, right? And then
Yeah.
It was like a door size. Like it probably
Door
could have had
size
a door
opening.
at some
Yeah.
point.
Yep.
And then this was just a door size as well, but it made this already long hallway feel extremely long, like it was
Like
The
a tunnel.
Shining.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so it feels
Haunted house.
better now. Yeah.
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 I think the biggest change to me is actually relocating the washer and dryer too.
Yeah.
And this like really opened up the kitchen and kind of doubled the size, proper pantry,
Yeah.
full
So
size
this
appliances.
wall here used to just extend all the way across, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And
And there was
the
an
laundry was
opening
right
to
there.
access that hallway over here as
Yep.
well.
So we lost a lot of kitchen space because we had a laundry room in there and a door, which is very unnecessary.
Yeah.
So you could enter the kitchen through the hallway or here. It was pretty pointless.
So it was basically like 2 cabinets, I think, on this
yeah.
side, right?
Yeah, it was like a
really-
stove and one little cabinet
Yeah,
on each
it was
side.
like really small. The functionality of the floor plan is super, super important because that's something that the buyers can't change. So if they don't like your paint color or they don't like your flooring, obviously you should make smart choices to try to get the best possible price. But if it's things like lighting and stuff like that, those things are easy to change. What they can't change is the cabinet layout. What they can't change is adding a 3rd bedroom, right? So you guys as investors do those hard things for them and make sure that your floor plan is as functional as possible before you even consider the finishes. If this wall wasn't here, this was basically like one gigantic room before that extended all the way to the front of the house.
Huge rectangle.
Huge room. We had a weird little toilet kind of turned around. There was
Yeah.
a tub in here. There was
Correct.
like a 24-inch vanity,
Yes.
I think, right? Like the tiniest vanity in the world.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what I love in here, we had talked about doing just like a walk-in shower, but you guys
Yeah.
actually did a tub, and that was super smart.
Yeah, because one tub in a house or a couple with a baby,
Sure.
it's probably smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think key here was fitting in a 60-inch vanity. Like
Yes.
you guys want to make sure if you can in the master bathroom, make sure you have a really good sized vanity for 2 people. Because, I mean, you can't always do that, but in this case, they were able to kind of reconfigure the bathroom in a way where they could fit the double vanity, make the toilet in a spot that makes sense, right? So I think the reconfiguration in there was super smart.
Yeah, we got rid of the bathtub, but we still kind of kept it because we made it, instead of the walk-in shower there, a bathtub shower. But then we were able to move the toilet out of the corner and put it in its own actually private area,
Yeah.
so it's less weird.
Yep.
And we were able to build out that wall to accommodate a 60-inch vanity. Yeah.
So the way that they have it now the toilet is actually, I think, kind of like a selling feature with where
Yeah.
it's got some privacy to it. Eliminating anything that's weird. if it looks weird and unconventional, it's going to deter buyers. It feels like icky DIY. Anything you can do to kind of modernize the space and give buyers what they need today, and also eliminate anything that reminds them that this is an old house. Specifically, if you're doing like a historic home or a really old home, there's a lot of like really weird DIY quirky stuff.
Yeah.
And that freaks people out because they feel like it's not going to be good craftsmanship. So you want to eliminate those things.
So I think the decision in this room that's really interesting is there was like a huge freestanding tub in the middle of the bathroom. And you would think like, okay, master suite, the tub, all right, it makes it feel like an ensuite. We need to find a way to keep the tub. But we ended up getting rid of the tub. Nick ended up getting rid of the tub. And what the trade-off was is they wanted a bigger vanity for counter space. We felt like that was a bigger value add than keeping a big tub and having a small counter space.
For sure.
Yeah. And my concession again was to keep the tub in this shower,
Yep.
just so we at least have one tub in the house in
Yeah.
case somebody has a kid or, God forbid, wants to wash their dog or something. It's always the waterproof vinyl, so nothing's going to happen to it. But I run vinyl pretty much on all of our projects.
Yeah.
I think it's just one less thing.
But like if you move up in price point to that 700 plus, you're probably doing tile.
Yeah.
But I do think another advantage, especially kind of in this setup, is if you know, anytime you have like a break in like line of sight, it's going to make spaces feel smaller. So when you do have that really narrow bathroom, running that vinyl all the way through, it actually makes that bathroom feel a little bit larger than what it is, right? If you had tile in there, you would definitely notice kind of how tight that bathroom is. So I think that was a smart choice for in here.
This is the first time we even put any kind of shelving in closets. We normally just don't. I know a lot of new builds don't.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I don't know why, but this one we're just like, we had an extra wood. We're like, just put in something generic so it's a little bit more finished.
I think it's a price point thing, right? If you're in a lower price point, those people typically don't have cash in general, right? So they don't want to, even spending $500 or $1,000 to closet rack the house, they're looking at it like, oh, I don't want to spend that money, that's
Yeah.
not cash, right? So in that lower price point, I would say, yeah, right? If you're, in that, working class price point, but as you start to move up, right, professional class
So we do,
price point,
especially like on walk-in
you can do without
closets.
it.
Yeah, like on if we have any houses that have walk-in closets, we don't install anything in there because you might have some buyers that really want to like maximize it and invest in it. And I don't say anything about it, but if the agent comes back and is like, oh, are you guys going to put in closet racks? I'm like, oh, we're giving a $250 credit so that they can do what they want. The other thing we offer is we'll say we'll be happy to install a double wire rack in there. So it's like they get the option. Either we can have our handyman go put something in for them if they don't want to deal with it, or we can give them a small credit and they can put whatever they want in there. I know Mike Scarpa on his townhouses that he's doing. I have a really good closet company if anybody ever needs one, but he's working up like a cost-effective closet design and rendering with them, and he's just going to put a picture of it inside, like here's the potential for the closet, and then they can negotiate it if they want to negotiate it. So we touched on this briefly, but Nick and Krista, they're actually about to own all of Selma Street at some point.
We're going to change the name.
Selma Heights.
So they flipped 207 Selma, what, like 3 months ago?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
And so that one they sold for $440,000. It was on the market for less than a week.
5 days.
Multiple offers.
Yeah.
Above asking, which we love, right? So that one was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath as well. Slightly bigger, but
Well, smaller.
I'm sorry, slightly smaller, but it had a garage. And for those of you that walked it will remember this, I think it kind of felt more like an owner type update. Because
Yes.
they didn't fully redo the kitchen. They had kind of like updated most of the house, but not all of the house, versus this is
exterior.
This is
a lot
definitely
of
a.
exterior.
This is done much better for sure.
Yeah, this is more of like a full flip, right?
But the porch, the elevation, you had composite decking. It was
Yes.
a wraparound
They had a
porch,
beautiful
it was
porch.
amazing
Had a
stuff.
garage.
Yeah, the exterior looked amazing. The interior, once we got the budget for the exterior, we had to take from the interior.
So this one, they've got a, proper 2-bedroom, 2-bath, but technically a 3, but 2 with an office, right? That third bedroom was a little bigger
Yeah.
Yeah.
at the other house. Location wise, there's definitely advantages to setting your own comps in the neighborhood. You guys go back and watch the replay of that on site if you didn't see it, because we talk through like them not selling for seasonality, and they ended up capturing more money on the sale price, which helped them set a really good anchor for this property. advantages here, I think you've got all of these really beautiful new builds on this side. But to Krista's point, from a buyer's agent perspective, you know, we're really close to the road on this side, and we've got the fire department.
When we first started this project, we were like 450 all day. We just sold that one for 440. It had less square footage, but I'm also seeing like the good and bad of it all. This one doesn't have a garage where the other one did, and that's important to some people. And yes, we have the new construction right here, and it's so nice at this end, but some people might not want to be close to this main road, this McDonald's, and this highway. So I've been going back and forth between 440 and 450. Keely talked about you might just get the same buyer in this price range, which is looking under 500. So maybe it's not a huge deal, but again, we're in a market where we're in July. It's been slower. A lot of homes are sitting on market. So it's like, do we underlist or list at the same price as that and drive that price up, or just get more eyes on it? Or do we list at the 450 and just hope that we get the one buyer because the comps justify it? But we're in July, heading into peak hurricane season.
Yeah.
Do we really want to sit on it with the holding costs?
And what are you guys paying for holding costs on this, if you don't mind?
It's about 3,200.
Okay. So, yeah.
So Tampa market experts. So the decision is, okay, we have a comp at 440, but we feel like this rehab is better, so we could potentially go higher. We feel like there's some deterrents for this one that'll keep the price down, close to commercial, close to the main road. But this one is slightly bigger square footage, right? So that the question is, do we list at 440, which is what we sold the other comp for right down the road, which is in a less favorable stretch of the street, right? Because you have all these new builds. Do we list at 440 and try to get multiple buyers and maybe bid the price up or secure a buyer immediately? Your first 2 weeks are your best bet of not having inspection issues, right? Because they feel like there's demand for the property. Or do we list at 450, what we call an aspirational price, or 455, an aspirational price because we hit a home run on the design in just the overall finish of the home. So market experts' thoughts, where do we list?
What's the difference in square footage? Is it less than 50 square feet?
1060, and then this one's 1196. But also, just an FYI, that one I listed at 435, and they offered 5,000 over asking when they really didn't have to. But they
We had multiple offers coming in, and they wanted to seal it.
Yeah, they gave us an escalation, 5K over. We took it at 440. We were shocked to get that like appraised, but hey, it's sold and it's done. So an appraiser's going to see that number one.
I definitely think from an appraisal value, it's not going to have an issue appraising at
Sure.
450. You have two different things, right? We talk about this all the time. Marketability versus appraisal. So marketability, are they going to catch a buyer at 450, or has the market slowed down so much in 3 months, right, that they need to be more strategic on the pricing? Appraisal wise, they're not going to have a problem appraising because they've set their own comp. They're going to get a deduction for the garage, but they'll get a kick, I think, on the C2 condition rating. So appraisal wise, they'll be fine.
Honestly, I probably still rate this a C3.
Why?
So C2, if you read it, it says almost everything is new in the home, right? And when you have a house of this age, we didn't replace the siding.
Roof.
I don't know if all
Did
the
you do
plumbing was
roof?
done. Did
2018?
you re-electric everything?
No.
Yeah. So it would
See,
be
that's the
C3,
thing.
but that would probably be C3 minus, and
Okay.
this would be C3 plus. And I would probably do $25,000 to $30,000 adjustment on it. But then I'd also do a $20,000 garage. So those would kind of wash. But the 100 square foot difference, I would make an adjustment
A little
for
bump
at
for
probably 10 to 15 grand. So
Yeah.
I think, but what I would do is I would look at what is on the market right now, listed and active, how many days it's been on.
Yeah.
That is your true, because your comps really don't make shit from 4
I
months
told
ago.
him I was
Yeah.
like a little nervous about it. That's why I've been going back and forth. Because all
Yeah.
day when we first started, I was like 450, no problem. But now I'm looking at this market that we're currently in.
Yeah.
And there are, I sent you 2 or 3. I even had a
Right.
phone call with an agent this morning on a 2-2 just near here, but they're listed at 439.9, but they're 30 days on market. I was like, what do you have? What's going on? He said it's been slow. So I'm like,
Similar renovation, similar level
yeah,
of
not
finish.
as nice,
Okay.
but the same square footage,
Okay.
exactly 1196. So
What about location?
that one was just north of here, so Seminole Heights. not necessarily
So
timelines.
north of MLK.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things when you get to the end of the project, you get nervous about how to price it. One of the things that I love, because you guys are both agents, so you guys get it. A lot of investors, when they get to the end of the project, they're burnt out, they spend a lot of money, they spend a lot of time, and they feel like the property is worth way above what it's actually worth, and they think they're just going to throw it on for some random number and catch a buyer. So the strategy here is super smart. Like, we're going to pay holding costs on this. If it sits, it's going to go stale. We're going to get a low ball offer. Like, there's all sorts of challenges that can come up. So, you know, the pricing strategy, whether it's 450 or 440, you're in the range of like an appropriate price, right? So make sure that you guys are pricing your properties the right way. I personally would put it on at 450. Just because I feel like it's the same buyer. And we talked about this. Like, if we were talking about 450 versus 460, I would be saying I think you should put it on for 450.
Yeah.
Because in buyers' minds, there's kind of like these common break points of what they're willing to spend. And I think 440 to 450, you're capturing the same exact buyers coming through here, and this house is either for them or it's not for them.
I just think you are getting the same buyer at the 440 and the 450. It's only $10,000 that we're talking about. So you can get a buyer at the 450 that comes and they say, I really like the house, but I hate that the McDonald's is right there, and I hate that the fire station is right across the street, so I'm only going to pay $435, or I'm only going to pay $440. At that point, you're going to take $440, or are you going to tell them to walk? You take $440 and you keep it moving.
Yeah.
Because they really like the house, there's just a few quirks that they don't love that you can change. So I agree that it's kind of the same buyer, and it's only $10,000.
You start to question because of the market, and you guys are in the project, so you can feel things and know things about the property that buyers aren't going to know in their 15-minute walkthrough.
So this sounds like my realtors are at 450 because they're salespeople and they're always aspirational. My conservative, data-driven people are at 440.
But he feels like it'll appraise for 450. And I think the issue is like that stretch, that's going to be, as soon as they pull up, it's either going to be a deal breaker or not, whether it's 440 or 450.
Yeah.
And then once they come in here, if that's not a deal breaker for them, they come in here, this is way nicer than like that comp that you're looking. So we'll look forward to seeing what you list at.
One of the articles that I read maybe a month ago, so it's Lennar, the second largest home builder. But like let's say you got started in Q1. I think you started this flip in Q1. They're saying their home price in Q1 was $409. In Q2 is already down to $389, and then a year ago it was already $426. So like to me it was just like, man, it's changing almost by a month.
Yeah.
So
7 to 11, correction.
yeah,
7 to 11%.
I mean,
sure.
anybody would start a project in Q1 and be looking to exit Q2.
Sure.
To be from 409 to 389, that was a little alarming. Right now they say you have to incentivize. So I think they said they're almost at 13%. For every 100,000 that buyers are looking for to get them off the sideline. So I think kind of
So these are various builder incentives to buy. Buying down points,
closing
credits,
costs.
Yeah.
So
cash credits.
just
Like
keeping
maybe
that in
like
mind.
list
One thing I've been doing
offer
is
in the
like,
listing.
so that's a side one. I've been doing some underwriting and helping people, but almost looking. So Florida, or I think Tampa, we're kind of leading the nation in canceled contracts.
Yeah.
And when I've been poking, I spent like 2 days just calling around on some canceled contracts. It's literally the substitution. So like they're under contract with your house, but that one just went 15 price down. So it's almost like, look at your comps,
Yeah.
and kind of price them based on the days on market, knowing you may be under contract, that one's similar. They make any kind of move,
Yeah.
you're buyer a jump contract
That's what
just based
Queensboro
on that.
had.
One of the ones I gave someone advice, and we'll see how it goes, but they just bottomed it out. Like, hey, if you want the 2% for your buyer, so it's almost like I'm gonna put my agent to work. Like, I seen this house, that's what they're asking. Oh, they're telling me it's no pay for me. That's where it's on them. Hey, whatever they needed, I left room in the appraisal. So if you're thinking 450, I'm on like a 430, and like let them know your 20 grand is there. Y'all work it out.
Yeah.
Payment,
Yeah.
closing costs, inspection, and that's kind of doing it too. You know, getting them off the fence. It's just pricing like that.
I feel like right now it's super important on the listing side to have direct communication with the buyer's agents, because we have the compensation situation, the market is slow, right? So it's like if somebody's scheduling a showing like immediately texting like, hi, I'm the listing agent, we're offering 2.5% commission, like just having those conversations. Please let me know if there's anything I can help with, if you have any questions. Like that initial intro, I think kind of like opens the door for conversations, and then kind of doing follow-up for feedback to say, what was their impression? Because they might say, oh, well, they loved it, but they felt like it was priced a little bit high. Okay, well, what number would it take to get it done? And then you can have that conversation.
I'm no expert, but I say 449 and then you let them come to you.
That's what I think too. That's what I'm saying. Jillian. I say 449. You're gonna get a 5K above ask.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Wow.
We would hope so.
That's what I think.
You're like, all right, I'll give you a credit, and then it's like you're still above that 440 credit.
Exactly.
That's what we did on the last one. We gave them like a 10K roof credit, and I drove past it today, and they still haven't fixed that damn roof. So it's
They're buying furniture with that money. Yeah, they'll deal with the roof when it comes.
Yeah.
They're waiting for hurricane
I should
season
text
to
them.
make
When
an
are you going to
insurance
fix that
claim.
roof that you made such a big deal about?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you guys. As always, we're open to your house.